Few could have foreseen what would happen when Pickle Wheat first boarded Troy Landry's boat. She appeared to be a guest rather than a future bayou legend because she was young, little, and carrying a pink gun case. However, neither Pickle nor the swamp are concerned about looks. The following events were a flurry of vicious hurricanes, enormous gators, close calls with death, and numerous breathtaking moments. She showed right away that she wasn't merely a passenger. However, something changed as she was starting to take on the role of the swamp's spokesperson. All of a sudden, fans had the same question. What was the true fate of Pickle Wheat? We must return to the beginning in order to comprehend that. Pickle Wheat was born in Poydras on September 21, 1995, as Cheyenne Nicole Wheat. She is a true gator hunter from St. Bernard Parish, Louisiana, and comes from a long and illustrious family of hunters. Being a fourth-generation alligator hunter, Louisiana's bayous, swamps, and marshes were more than simply picturesque landscapes. They were her playground. Her Isleño ancestry adds even more distinctiveness to her background. The Isleños are descended from Canary Islanders who came to Louisiana in the 18th century, bringing with them their own language, culture, and traditional outdoor expertise. Families like Pickle's are still shaped by that past, which still permeates the area today. Pickle and her brother Cody were raised in a close-knit, outdoor-loving family and shared a profound love of the wild that their parents, Eddie and Missy Wheat, had instilled in them. She was surrounded by the customs of hunting, independence, and outdoor living from a young age. It's everything in one picture from her early years. Cradled in the arms of a family member following a successful duck hunt, baby Pickle is already involved in the activity. The caption made fun of the fact that it was her first youth hunt and that she was immediately engrossed. Pickle's father and grandparents taught her many of the abilities she uses today, which were developed over many generations of hunting turkeys, ducks, and gators. In addition to being an experienced outdoor enthusiast, her grandfather, also called Pop, was a talented machinist and knife maker who was highly regarded for his artistry. He was once described by Pickle as the heart and soul of their work, claiming that he was the reason they follow the grain, a statement that highlights his artistic abilities as well as the morals he instilled in his family. Season 12 of Swamp People marked the beginning of Pickle's transformation from family hunter to TV personality. The door was opened by her family's long-standing relationships with seasoned actors Troy Landry and Ronnie Adams. Pickle claims that Troy soon became like a second father to her, and producers were drawn to her genuineness and unafraid spirit when they were looking for new talent. Despite having spent her entire life near gators, Swamp People provided her with the opportunity to fully showcase her abilities. The alligator population boom at the beginning of season 12 of Swamp People was a major issue. Things quickly became hostile as other gators fought for the same food. These ravenous reptiles were no longer only hiding in the bayous. In pursuit of their next meal, they were beginning to infiltrate neighboring areas. There was only one meaning to that. A significant culling effort was required. Troy Landry, renowned as the king of the swamp, was at the core of this endeavor. 500 tags were given to him. By any measure, this is a huge burden. Troy had 3 teams prepared and was still without a deckhand after his regular partner left, but he wasn't going it alone. Pickle took center stage and quickly demonstrated that she was anything but a newbie. Pickle was not exactly what one would think of as a gator hunter. Troy even made a joke about how she appeared to be in elementary school. Despite her youthful appearance and little stature, she contributed a significant amount of grit to the boat. She had a lot to prove at the young age of 25, and she was more than willing to do so. Pickle shown her respect for the task and eagerness to contribute on her first day. Troy liked her right away, referring to her as everything from Cinderella to Shorty, but he never questioned her skills. They clicked right away. Friendly teasing, respect for one another, and a common goal of finishing the task at hand. She even began referring to him as Papa Troy, and the moniker stuck. Pickle assisted with the landing of a massive 11-foot alligator on their first day out on the water. She handled the situation like an experienced veteran, maintaining her composure under duress while carrying her pink gun case. It was more than a stroke of luck. It was the initial indication of a trend that would characterize her season. Pickle encountered more difficult circumstances in the ensuing episodes. She and Troy's attempt to capture Freight Train, a legendary gator that was notorious across the area, stands out as one of the most memorable. They traveled across uncharted waterways and dense terrain in pursuit, putting their stamina and cooperation to the test. However, they eventually captured the monster, and Pickle once again shown her ability to remain composed under pressure. They thought giant female gators were reproducing in the nursery, an unexplored area of the swamp that Troy went Pickle deep into later in the season. Every capture was important because they only had one day to fill all of their tags. Even though the swamp was treacherous and overgrown, and the gators were more hostile than ever, Pickle stayed focused and alert. While Troy scanned the banks, alert for any unexpected movement, she kept a watchful eye on the lake. The tone for what would turn out to be a demanding search was established by one of their first catches of the day, a particularly hostile female. They were strained by tangled ropes, erratic gators, and physical fatigue. Together, however, they captured a 450-pound, 8-foot female gator and a huge 550-pound gator, the day's largest catch. An important turning point was the episode. Pickle wasn't merely demonstrating her might. She was demonstrating that she have corresponding leadership abilities. Troy put her in charge as captain around the middle of the season, giving her the reins for the first time. It was a significant occasion and an obvious indication that she had gained his respect and trust. Pickle faced two very distinct obstacles as the season came to a close. She joined a high-volume harvest expedition on Cow Island in the episode Firepower, where she had to handle gator tags and fast fire line pulls in some of the roughest, tightest seas. Then, as a sudden cold front moved across southern Louisiana, gators on ice appeared. The abrupt decrease in temperature caused the gators to slow down and altered their behavior entirely. Pickle quickly adjusted, shifting lines into shallower, warmer waters and changing the location of the bait. Her extensive knowledge of reptilian behavior enabled the team to make well-informed decisions that greatly benefited them. By the time Swamp People Season 13 premiered, the cast was under difficult circumstances. It was anarchy. The gator hunting season was in danger of being destroyed before it had even begun as Hurricane Ida, a strong Category 4 hurricane, was tearing toward Louisiana. Pickle and Troy Landry teamed up for a high-stress race against time with less than 48 hours before landfall. Their goal was to fill as many tags as they could before hunting was rendered impossible by the storm. Pickle was a force of nature herself from the beginning. She moved quickly, assisting Troy in hitting line after line with accuracy and tenacity. Two 11-footers and another enormous 10-footer were among the absolute giants they managed to bring in together. Pickle remained unflinching as the pressure increased and the storm clouds became darker. With perseverance and determination, she helped secure each gator, untangled lines, and stabilized the boat. They were already exerting themselves to the utmost before the season had even begun. Their first encounter with a tree shaker was one of the most memorable. A very hostile gator struggling through dense undergrowth. Throughout the takedown, Pickle maintained her composure and contributed to a clean shot that allowed the gator to enter the boat safely. They continued to move forward even as the wind and rain started to blow in. They packed the boat full before finally calling it a day, despite the worsening weather. The beginning of what would turn out to be one of the most intense periods of the season was chaotic and hugely successful. Things took a surprising turn later in the season when Troy chose to switch things up and give Pickle the captain's chair. She was eager to take charge, operating the motor, steering the boat, and even charting the route. Everything went well at first. She even assisted in the capture of another magnificent 11-foot gator. Tensions, however, quickly increased. As her first mate, Troy mockingly gave her a low rating for deckhand skills, to which Pickle retorted that he was being too severe. Their often smooth teamwork was put to the test by the role reversal. Directions, where to put the boat, and who actually controlled the motor were the points of contention. Nevertheless, Pickle persevered and assisted in bringing in a number of large gators, a heavy 9-footer too. She eventually acknowledged that she felt better at ease in her typical position and returned control to Troy. By the end of the show, each had a renewed appreciation for each other's work, demonstrating once more how well their dynamic functioned when each person played to their strengths. During a full moon night search, the season also brought fans on an exciting journey. Pickle, who acknowledged that full moons frighten her, reunited with Troy. She appeared a little off her game right away, preoccupied with superstition and agitated nerves. When her gun jammed as they were getting close to a gator, the night took a terrifying turn. Unarmed, she found herself in imminent danger. She stumbled and fell straight into the lake at one point, coming down almost on top of a gator. The reptile was swimming between her legs, tangled in lines. Pickle was stuck in line and unable to get away as the gator raged. She went on to say that it was one of the scariest things she had ever experienced. The terrified expression on Troy's face added to the intensity. Pickle wasn't afraid until she realized how worried he was. Furthermore, it is enough to chill anyone when the Swamp King himself is shaken. They swiftly restored control in spite of the confusion. Pickle fired a crisp shot after someone offered her a gun. Although it ended quickly, the rush of adrenaline persisted. The uneasiness only increased later that evening. Pickle had to fish her rifle out after dropping it in the water by accident. It was a brief time, yet it appeared to validate her innermost feelings. The hunt had been cursed by the full moon. She maintained her composure, toughness, focus, and determination on the outside. On the inside, though, she was exhausted. She spent the remainder of the night feeling exhausted, frustrated, and confused. She made one thing apparent by the end of it: she would never again hunt at a full moon. On the other hand, life was changing drastically away from the wetlands. Pickle had just met Joshua Kippies, an emergency medical technician who had a strong regard for her culture despite having no hunting experience. Joshua had previously been married and had a child from that union. Pickle gave someone a warm embrace. She gave her everything to their new blended family, and the couple revealed they were expecting their first child together in November 2022. Pickles used beautiful, poignant pictures to share her pregnancy journey with her admirers. On International Women's Day, she was seen embracing her baby bump tenderly in a white bra and trousers in one especially memorable photo. Her Louisiana roots were beautifully depicted by another, standing by a bayou beneath a canopy of trees, wearing a flowing lace robe, pickled barefoot. Mimi Ray, their daughter, who weighed just over 6 pounds and measured 19 inches, was born on April 25, 2023. The announcement was a happy turning point in Cheyenne's life, fusing her sensual new role as a mother with her fiery swamp spirit. But Pickle was back on the boat for season 15, prepared to take on the wild once more. Only months after birthing her baby, Mimi Ray, she got back in touch with Troy Landry, and the two of them decided to aim for the incredible feat of killing 100 gators in a single day. The challenge was enormous, and the heat was excruciating. Even though they fell short of the century mark, finishing the day with 80 gators was no small accomplishment. In that endeavor, Pickle played a crucial role. She set the tone for their demanding 900 tag season by personally taming 41 of the monsters. Pickle never allowed the fatigue slow her down, even as it began to show behind the scenes. Troy freely said that he wasn't sure what to anticipate from her once she became a mother, but his reservations were swiftly allayed. She showed herself to be as resilient, trustworthy, and unyielding as ever. She might admit off camera that she was on the verge of passing out. However, Troy still viewed her as a reliable girlfriend. Later, the swamp took on a spooky aspect when it was illuminated by a full Louisiana moon. It was anything from peaceful. Pickle and Troy were pursuing an uncommon and unnerving danger. Others on their lines are being attacked by a cannibal gator. Pickle's instincts took over as usual. Through a harrowing night full of near misses and false alarms, they followed the predator. She once missed a crucial shot that would have cost them a huge catch. However, Pickle doesn't give up easily. It escalated into a full-scale conflict when they eventually cornered the creature. The gators fighting and thrashing resembled something from a horror film. However, Pickle made the shot that finished the contest with unwavering determination and timing. When they opened the throat of the roughly 12-foot-long beast, they discovered pieces of another gator. It was an exciting and memorable time. To sum up, you will no longer be swimming in the moonlight. That full moon nightmare ended with Pickle. Serious warnings were issued by meteorologists as season 16 approached. One of the busiest hurricane seasons in recent memory was beginning to take shape. From day one, Troy Landry didn't waste any time in exerting himself. He had a strict target, 20 gators per boat every day. Am I okay? Pickle was standing right by him, prepared to take up the task. They went to Grand Lake in the pouring rain for their first hunt. Despite the difficult circumstances, Pickle made sure everything ran smoothly. She helped land some huge gators, saw line movement early and calmly, and precisely managed every near miss. She kept up with Troy's rigorous pace, step for step, even with tangled lines, slippery surfaces, and high-stakes situations. They reached the 20-gator milestone by the end of the day, and the final one, so large it required a winch, arrived just as storm clouds were gathering. Hurricane Francine followed. Pickle and Troy embarked on a risky mission at Lake Foss Point as the storm pounded the Louisiana coast. Every second mattered. The process proceeded quickly because to Pickle's steady hand and concentrated enthusiasm, she once again demonstrated why she is an essential member of Troy's squad by expertly helping to pull in gators despite the threat of storm clouds. They turned their attention to Pierre Part for a last desperate search as the storm approached. Time was running out and they were still dealing with more than 700 tags. Pickle, however, remained laser-focused. She assisted in the landing of a number of enormous gators, including one so heavy they had to winch it in, and another so powerful it dragged their boat. She managed to keep the lines moving despite the increasing winds and decreasing visibility, bringing in an 11-footer and then a 10-footer before the weather became hazardous. Pickle's objectives shifted when the lines were cleared. She realized it was time to evacuate her family since she still had vivid recollections of Hurricane Katrina. She prioritized her mother and child when she made the decision to depart. That choice demonstrated Pickle's entire character. Fearless in the field, but fiercely protective of those she loves. At sunrise, Pickle was taking a rare step out of the swamp just as Troy and Chase were returning to the water. It wasn't about the hunt this time. It was the day of her wedding. Pickle and Joshua Kippies exchanged vows in a touching outdoor ceremony on the banks of the Belle River in Louisiana on September 21, 2024. As more than just a beautiful location. For Pickle, it was a sight full with significance. With the peaceful flow of the river behind them, the couple exchanged vows under a wooden arch adorned with delicate pink and white cloth, framed by oak trees covered in Spanish moss. It was a place that represented her heart and her heritage. Pickle described the ceremony as one of the most emotional times in her life, right up there with the birth of her baby. It fulfilled all of her expectations, surrounded by the natural beauty of the swamp where she lives, and it is private, happy, and intensely personal. The couple had even more happy news to share just a few weeks after the wedding. Their second child was on the way. Pickle revealed the news in an amusing Instagram video shot while hunting in October. She made a joke about how difficult it was to find clothing that would fit her 14-week bump, and her open, humorous updates captivated her fans. She shared another humorous video of herself in the wild later that month, giggling about her pregnant cravings and munching. Even though they had not yet revealed the baby's gender, her delight was clear. Pickle eventually announced the arrival of their second kid on April 4, 2025. It was a boy, too. She shared a touching video on social media that included snippets of her pregnancy and her first moments with their newborn son, Casey. Fans showered the couple with congratulations and joked that baby Casey will soon be an alligator hunter in response to the announcement. Pickle later provided followers with a funny glimpse into her husband's preparations for the arrival of their kid, albeit not disclosing the precise date of birth. One video offered a humorous and realistic glimpse into motherhood as Joshua was shown mowing the grass, putting on shoes, and admiring plants at the shop, while the History Channel crew was busy setting up necessities like the diaper bag and car seat. Pickle has stayed dedicated to her fitness and well-being in spite of everything she has on her plate. She immediately resumed her training after giving birth, offering motivational updates and showing off her muscles in postpartum progress pictures. She is well known for leading an active lifestyle, One particularly noteworthy image included a confident comment that said, "My first summer in a one-piece, but mama still got them guns," along with a flexed upper body photo. So, She had already resumed testing her endurance by May in anticipation of the alligator season. She is clearly exhausted but resolute and joking in one of the videos. "I'm just a mother attempting to prepare for alligator season. I am eager to return to the boat." She was more than willing to respond to the obvious cry from the marsh.